What if I told you that your daily health ritual, your pursuit of longevity, this entire wellness industry is actually not what it seems? We're accustomed to viewing it as a rational choice, a scientific approach. But what if a deeper, almost mystical truth lies behind this facade? Something Carl Jung might call the collective unconscious, or Nassim Taleb, a fragile illusion of control. Imagine millions of people obsessed with the idea of eternal youth, a perfect body, absolute health. They follow gurus, buy supplements, and push themselves to extremes in gyms. But is it truly about health, or is it a new form of religion, a modern cult where the sacrifices are time, money, and sometimes common sense? In this video, we won't discuss the benefits of broccoli or the harms of sugar. Instead, we'll examine the modern cult of health and longevity through the lens of Carl Jung and Nassim Taleb. We'll deconstruct its archetypes, its vulnerabilities, and its hidden dangers. Prepare to see the familiar in a completely new light. To begin this deep dive, we start with Carl Jung. Imagine our minds not as blank slates, but rather as ancient, incredibly powerful computers, and within them are not just basic programs, but deep-seated invisible drivers, or as Jung called them, archetypes. These aren't specific ideas, but rather universal forms, templates, or images, deeply embedded in humanity's collective unconscious. They are passed down through generations, shaping our myths, fairy tales, dreams, and even our most irrational fears. They act like invisible threads, pulling us towards certain behaviors and ideals. This is where it gets truly fascinating. The modern pursuit of ideal health and eternal youth isn't merely a rational choice based on scientific data. It's a powerful movement that, like a magnet, draws us in because it resonates with our profound archetypes. Consider this. We see ourselves as heroes, battling illness, weakness, and aging. Every trip to the gym, every strict diet is our personal feat, our quest for perfection. We conquer bad habits, toxins, and age. This is a purely heroic narrative. And who guides us on this quest? Of course, the gurus, experts, and coaches. They don't just offer advice, they embody the archetype of the wise elder or healer, possessing secret knowledge and capable of showing the path to enlightenment, in this case to physical perfection. We trust them not only because of what they know, but because they feel like conduits of some higher truth. What is the ultimate goal of this pursuit? Eternal youth, maximum life extension. This is the pure archetype of immortality, a dream that has haunted humanity since the dawn of time. From elixirs of immortality to cryonics, the form changes, but the essence remains. Or take the obsession with clean eating, detoxes, and eliminating any harmful substances. This is a manifestation of the archetype of purity, a striving for a pristine, untouched state, for an ideal body, a temple without flaws, cleansed of the sins of the modern world. Do you see? This isn't just about calories and workouts. It's about deeply ingrained patterns that make us feel like we're doing something profoundly important, almost sacred. We're not just taking care of our bodies, we're participating in an eternal myth, playing out ancient scenarios without even realizing it. This explains why for many, wellness becomes almost a religion, why abandoning it feels like a sin, and adhering to it feels like a path to salvation. We're not just seeking health, we're seeking meaning, ritual, and belonging to something greater. But if our pursuit of health is more than just science, if it's so deeply connected to our unconscious impulses, how does this manifest in practice? And what does it mean for our capacity for rational thought and control? Let's take a look. And here Nassim Taleb steps onto the stage, the very thinker who taught us to view the world through the lens of fragility and antifragility. In his view, everything in the world can be divided into three categories: fragile, robust, and antifragile. Fragile things break under impact, and you sort of imagine a crystal vase. Robust things withstand it like a brick. But anti-fragile things, they grow stronger from chaos, stress, and unpredictability, like muscles that grow after a workout, or an immune system that learns from illnesses. And this is where it gets most interesting. Our modern cult of health, with all its prescriptions, optimizations, and control, it makes us fragile. Think about it. Millions of people live in a constant pursuit of ideal, sterile purity. They eliminate entire food groups fearing gluten, lactose, and sugar like the plague. They measure every metric of their bodies, sleep on schedule, eat by the clock, and train according to a strict plan. Every calorie is counted, every step measured, every toxin expelled. We believe that such total control will lead to absolute well-being. But what happens when a black swan, an unpredictable event that no one expected, arrives in their perfectly constructed yet terrifyingly fragile system? Stress at work, an unexpected illness of a loved one, a sudden trip where their correct food or usual gym isn't available. At that moment, this meticulously built structure collapses. The body, accustomed to sterile conditions, cannot cope with ordinary demands. The psyche, geared for total control, caves under chaos. A person who considered themselves the embodiment of health suddenly becomes ill from the very fact of a loss of control. This is the narrative fallacy Taleb speaks of. We construct beautiful, logical stories about how things should be, forgetting that reality is always more complex and unpredictable. We create an illusion of control, but behind it lies profound vulnerability. We optimize ourselves for ideal laboratory conditions, but life is not a laboratory. The irony is that by striving for complete control over our bodies, we deprive them of their natural ability to adapt, to grow stronger from challenges. And this leads us to a striking conclusion. The pursuit of absolute sterile health and ideal optimization is not a path to longevity and strength. It is a path to fragility. True health, according to Taleb, is not in the absence of stress, but in the ability to benefit from it. It's not about sterility, but about antifragility. Your immune system grows stronger when it encounters pathogens, not when it lives in a sterile bubble. Your muscles grow after exertion, not from inactivity. We forget that nature created us not for ideal order, but for adaptation to chaos. And what seems to us like a path to perfection actually robs us of the ability to be truly alive and resilient. We strive for perfection using every available tool. Today, that means one thing: data. Big data. Wearable devices that track our every step, every heartbeat, every sleep phase. Genetic tests that predict risks. Personalized diets calculated by artificial intelligence. The prevailing wisdom is that the more data we have, the more accurate our predictions, the better we can optimize our bodies, and the longer and healthier we'll live. This seems perfectly logical, even scientifically sound, doesn't it? We believe that if we gather enough information, we can eliminate any uncertainty, any threat. We can program ourselves for ideal health. But here Nassim Taleb once again challenges our beliefs. He would say, this is not just a trap. It is the quintessence of the narrative fallacy and a source of profound fragility. Imagine you build your life based on an ideal model created from millions of data points. Your smart bracelet tells you when to sleep, your fitness tracker when to exercise, your dietitian what to eat based on your genome. You create a perfect, predictable system where there is no room for randomness. You believe you are in complete control of your future health. But Taleb argues, reality does not obey models, especially not complex, non-linear systems like the human body. The more you try to predict and control, the more fragile you become in the face of what was not accounted for in your model. What if your genetic test missed a rare mutation? What if the stress you experience cannot be measured by gadgets? What if the virus you caught doesn't fit into any known statistics? The common truth states, knowledge is power and data is knowledge. Taleb, however, flips this logic in complex systems. An excess of predictions and attempts at micro-optimization often leads to weakening. We become dependent on our model, and when it inevitably fails, because life is always more complex than any model, we don't just suffer, we crumble. We lose the capacity for adaptation, for improvisation, for that very anti-fragile behavior that allows us to benefit from randomness. Think about the 2008 financial crisis. Banks built complex mathematical models to assess risks, seemingly accounting for everything, but they didn't account for a black swan, an unpredictable event that their model simply couldn't foresee, and the entire system collapsed. The same thing happens with our bodies when we try to turn them into such an optimized system. We forget that our organism is not a machine that can be programmed. It is a living, evolving, self-regulating system that thrives not on predictability, but on moderate doses of chaos and uncertainty. The pursuit of total control through data and predictions is not the path to absolute health. It is the path to vulnerability. We don't become stronger. We become tethered to our models, and when those models crack, we find ourselves defenseless. The irony is that in the pursuit of immortality, we lose the ability to truly live in an unpredictable world. But Taleb doesn't just speak of fragility in the face of a black swan. He goes much deeper, pointing out that our very pursuit of absolute order, sterile purity, and the elimination of even the slightest risks is a hidden trap that makes us not just vulnerable, but catastrophically brittle. Consider this. We're so afraid of even minor setbacks that we try to eliminate them entirely. But what if these very setbacks are the source of our strength? Taleb would say, you are creating a perfect greenhouse for your body, but you forget that life is not a greenhouse. He would point out what most people ignore, the importance of chaos in small doses. For him, it's not merely an inevitability, but a vital element for the development of any complex system. Muscles grow from micro-tears, not from rest. Immunity strengthens by encountering bacteria, not by living in a sterile capsule. Imagine an ancient forest. It is constantly cleared of dry branches and small undergrowth to make it ideal, clean, to avoid the risk of fire. Seems logical, right? But an experienced forest ranger thinking like Taleb would tell you otherwise. He knows that small localized fires are not a catastrophe but part of a natural cycle. They burn away accumulated dry debris, preventing the buildup of flammable material. They open the soil for new growth, making the forest stronger and more resilient. If, however, we suppress all small fires for decades, sooner or later, so much fuel will accumulate that a single random lightning strike or discarded cigarette butt will lead to a mega fire that destroys everything in its path, and it will be impossible to stop. Similarly, when we try to turn our bodies and lives into such an ideal and sterile forest, avoiding any small fires, be it a mild cold, a slight dietary lapse, moderate stress, or temporary sleep deprivation, we deprive ourselves of the ability to adapt. We don't allow our immune system, our psyche, our physiology to train, to learn, to grow stronger. We accumulate fuel in the form of untrained resilience. And when a true, unpredictable black swan arrives, a serious illness, a global crisis, an existential shock, our ideal system collapses not just from the impact, but from accumulated fragility caused by the very pursuit of total control. Taleb would emphasize true strength lies not in the absence of problems, but in the ability to benefit from their appearance. The paradox is that by trying to eliminate all risks, we create the biggest one, the inability to survive in the real world. We build a crystal castle, believing it will protect us, but in reality, it's just waiting for the first stone. Well, if Carl Jung and Nassim Taleb are right, then the future of our health cult looks unsettling, because sooner or later, this crystal castle that we are so diligently building will crack. And it won't just be a crack, it will be a complete breakdown. We will see not just an intensification of current trends, but their radicalization. The pursuit of perfection will become even more obsessive, permeating every corner of our lives. Every aspect of existence will be optimized and measured. The stronger this illusion of total control becomes, the more terrifying the awakening will be. Imagine a world where each of us has a personal health passport based on full genetic analysis and billions of data points collected from wearable devices. We will live in sterile conditions, eat ideal food, and program every breath, every hour of sleep. We will feel invulnerable. But it is precisely at this moment that a real, unpredictable crisis will strike. This crisis won't be a mundane epidemic or a new type of virus. It will be something much deeper, a crisis of meaning, or as Taleb would say, a black swan of our own design. What if this entire pursuit of physical immortality leads us to spiritual emptiness? What if, by cleansing the body of toxins and avoiding the slightest risk, we deprive our souls of spontaneity, of the joy of imperfection, of a true, vibrant life where there is room for risk, mistakes, and even pain, which, paradoxically, makes us stronger? Imagine a generation that grew up under conditions of total optimization. Their immune systems are unfamiliar with fighting common viruses. Their psyches are unaccustomed to stress because any uncertainty was scrubbed from their schedules. Their lives are mapped out to the second. And suddenly something happens that cannot be controlled. A global disruption, climate change, a pandemic that defies optimization, or simply the realization that having achieved an ideal body, they lost something far more valuable: their humanity, their capacity for adaptation, their life. And at that moment, when the ideal facade crumbles, we will see not just physical ailments, but an epidemic of mental fragility. People accustomed to total control will be utterly unprepared for chaos. Their hero archetype, which battled external enemies, will be powerless against internal collapse. Their wise elder will not be able to offer a pill for existential despair. Their dream of immortality will turn into a nightmare of lost meaning. This will not just be a setback, it will be a system breakdown, because we forgot that true strength lies not in the absence of problems, but in the ability to benefit from their appearance. We forgot that life is not just order, but also chaos, and that it is in chaos that true anti-fragile health is born. So how can we prepare for this future? How can we avoid becoming victims of our own pursuit of perfection? We need to rethink the very concept of health. It is not a destination, but a journey. Not sterility, but antifragility. First, embrace imperfection. Your body is not a machine, but a living, complex system. Allow it to sometimes err, to face challenges. Don't fear a mild cold, moderate stress, or unplanned meals. These are precisely what train your immune system and psyche. They are your small fires that prevent the mega fire. Second, trust your intuition more than algorithms. Your ancestors survived for thousands of years without fitness trackers or genetic tests. Their bodies knew when to sleep, when to eat, when to move. Listen to yours. Third, seek meaning beyond the physical body. Your health is only one part of your life. Find a balance between physical well-being and mental, emotional, and spiritual development. Jung's archetypes are not just about the body, they are about the meaning of existence, the fullness of being. And finally, be prepared for black swans. Don't try to control everything. Instead, develop your ability to adapt, to improvise, to learn from the unexpected. Become anti-fragile. Because in a world where everything strives for order, true strength belongs to those who can thrive in chaos.